We start off with another theme setup for the whole episode. This time the setup consists of Mabel and Dipper watching a TV show named Duck-tective, which Dipper comments on by saying that it's definitely easier to see clues when you're that close to the ground, and that he himself has keen powers of observation, which he quickly proves to Mabel by deducing that she ate a whole tube of toothpaste, which she actually, and not very surprisingly, did do. This scene is interrupted by Zeus telling the twins that he found a secret door while cleaning up. And we also have another interesting piece of decoration hanging on the wall on the left side. This time it's not a generic animal head, but a two-headed, three-eyed sheep. Or it could also be a two-headed, normal-eyed and cyclops sheep. Not really sure on this one. As Zeus opens the door, you can see a lineup of wax figures standing in the room. And if you look at the closest figure to the door, you can see that the queen will always be represented in Gravity Falls, immortalized as a wax figure. The three look at the wax figures for a bit, until Dipper comes to a very lifelike looking one that turns out to be the Grunkle Stan, which frightens them even more than him just being a wax figure come to life. Which definitely is an understandable reaction. After the intro, we get a view of the whole room, this time with the lights on. And there's already an extra figurine standing on the left side of the queen that wasn't there before. I think that is supposed to be Edison, but definitely don't quote me on that. While Stan goes through the wax figures and explains who they all are, we can see that the lineup is a bit scuffed. Previously, the lineup would have been Genghis Khan, Shakespeare, then Sherlock Holmes, and then, but I'm not sure about this, probably Lizzie Borden, who I found out about after a short and, might I add, very professional Google search. She was tried and charged with murdering her father and stepmother with an axe. And after good old Lizzie would have been Larry King. The lineup that Stan shows, and the only figures that are actually visible in said lineup, are Genghis Khan, Sherlock Holmes, and then Larry King. After Mabel almost blinded Stan, she proposes that she could create a new wax figure to replace the molten Abraham Lincoln. Mabel then goes through a few ideas she had in front of Dipper before getting inspired to create a figure of Grunkle Stan. And just by the way, that suitcase wasn't there before, and I'm pretty sure that there was no ceiling window either. So I guess that's some magical light or something. There's something I actually noticed for the first time in this reveal scene of the Grunkle Stan figure, and that is that Zeus and Grunkle Stan have 5 fingers on each hand, but the twins only have 4. At first I thought, okay, maybe they gave the kids only 4 fingers, but in a scene closely following this one, you can clearly see multiple adults that also only have 4 fingers. So I don't really know why they only gave a few select people 5 fingers. Maybe it had something to do with the size of their hands that made it easier to give them 5 fingers. That being my best guess, I'm just going to roll with it. I'm pretty sure that this is also accurate for other artists as well. If you look really closely in the background on the right, you can see the time traveler again, and this time he has picked up a black shoe with a white sole. I'm pretty positive that promising pizza to people and then not giving them pizza is against the Geneva Convention. And if it isn't right now, it definitely should be. The animation of the question mark here is a little bit weird because it should be attached to the pole, but you can't really see a connection point to the bottom of the question mark. We can hear a clock chime in this scene, but the clock that's hanging on the wall is not showing a time that will cause it to chime at all. Chime. See what I did there? And there's that random goat again. I still don't really get the significance of this character. After the policemen behaved like absolute donkeys, trashing a 12-year-old just for wanting to help solve a case, they walk out of frame to the left. Which definitely shows that they are not the brightest, because I'm pretty sure that the entrance and or exit door to the house is at the front, which would be the right side of the screen here. But I guess they could just walk through the whole shop. I don't know. And here we get another little glimpse of the time traveler This time he's visible on the suspects board, right in the middle. Which of course doesn't really make sense, because they haven't met him yet. Or maybe they have met him and they don't know, because it didn't really happen, because time travel, and maybe they know because they technically traveled back in time and then they met him and didn't really meet him, and then they Anyways, you can also see another character that we haven't been introduced to yet on the bottom of the suspects board, and his name is Robbie, and we will see him in later episodes. He hangs around with Wendy. So Zeus is not only a guru when it comes to giving advice, but apparently he's also a master in identifying objects. Yeah, clearly that name isn't gonna stick. And the goat again! Why is the goat everywhere? Everywhere! You can never escape it. You can never escape the goat. Oh, and besides the goat, on the bottom right there, you can see a few numbers, letters, and symbols. I can't really decipher the first block of symbols, letters, and numbers, but I'm pretty sure that the second one, the BG26, stands for background 26. Going off that, the first block probably designates this background to a specific episode and timing in the episode, but that's just my theory. You are free to correct me in the comments if you have any idea what else this could be. This dude is probably the most responsible bouncer I have ever seen. And that has to be a pretty special door, because that isn't a normal keyhole in any kind of way. I do not know why it's upside down. Right after the twins enter the bar, you can see a dude on the left side wearing a t-shirt saying Tub Pub. And the interesting thing with this t-shirt is that it originally said Chub Pub, but the creator of Gravity Falls actually released a conversation they had with the S&P department at Disney, which is basically there to secure the PG rating. In that conversation, they wrote back and forth about this t-shirt, and the S&P department said that they didn't want it to say Chub Pub because they said that chub has a sexual connotation. So the animators had to change the word from chub to tub. This dude's got a sweet purse in his back pocket, absolutely fitting for the outfit. So Manly Dan tells Dipper that he was punching the clock, literally, and that he would never use such an axe because it's left-handed. Before leaving, Mabel plays some Heaven or Hell with the dude at the bar and tells him that his wife is gonna be beautiful. But then he asks the real question while Mabel leaves. Is his future wife going to love him though? After going through all the subjects and ruling everyone out that isn't left-handed, they arrive at the conclusion that it must be Toby Determined, the reporter, because he is the only suspect that is left, and actually left-handed. After Mabel boasts about their great detective work, Dipper unravels the complete story why Toby Determined would have killed Wax Stan. You can see that there's a hole in Toby's shoe, and just to be sure, I went back and watched the scene again where they were sitting in front of the stage, and there is actually a hole in the shoe. That detail wasn't just added in for the recounting of the story. The recounting is finished with Mabel holding up a newspaper with the photo of Wax Stan's head. The thing wrong with the photo? Pretty easy. They couldn't have made that photo. Because the head was stolen, there's no way for them to get a photo like this in any way. And even though it's in the newspaper that Toby Determined publishes, even he couldn't have gotten that photo because, as we find out in a few seconds, he's innocent. So he couldn't even have edited the head into the photo. Sheriff Blob says that there aren't any fingerprints on the axe, which is a bit odd because both Mabel and Dipper held the axe before and they weren't wearing any gloves, so at least their fingerprints should be on the axe handle. Oh, and also the time on the VCR is a bit scuffed because if we go back and look at the time when Toby starts smooching the cardboard cutout of Chandra Jimenez, we can see that the time is at least supposed to start at 10 o'clock, but the timer is going a bit fast. We're just going to assume that it should be 10 o'clock, even though it would be 10 minutes, judging by how fast the timer is going. And if we look back at the VCR timer in the background, we can see that it's already saying 10 o'clock and 3 minutes, but with a different picture than before. So the timer is a bit off. So 2 things in this frame. First of all, Zeus is trying to blow his nose, but you can see that his nose isn't even touching the tissue. And the second thing is that the queen is too short to sit on the chair, so she just stands on it. And so does the figure of Larry King. Oh, and a little extra, Mabel is, for some reason, still holding the axe. After the wax figures drop their disguise and tell the twins that they are cursed, that's why they can move, we get a little flashback of the story behind the wax figures. And yes, I only included this flashback because I thought it was funny that you can see a wax figure getting kicked in his wax nuts. Oh, and also because John Coolio's stance is mirrored here. Before he had the microphone in the right hand and had the left hand pointing down. Oh, and Holmes did not drop the axe there. The axe was lying behind the sofa chair and not to the left of it. Oh, and Wax Stan is also missing his little pedestal thingy. Yeah, of course they had to go with the evil eyes rolling back into skull thingy, because that's not a horror trope. Gonna be a little bit nitpicky here. The coffee was not standing behind the napkins before, it was standing in front of them. I also gave this scene a thought. They fight the wax figures with electric candles, and I thought about if this would make sense in any capacity, and the problem is these are probably battery powered, you can't see a cord. Going from that, this scene would not be possible. Even if we say that the candles aren't LEDs, the batteries would not have enough power to get the light bulbs hot enough to melt wax. The melting point of sculpting wax, as far as I found out, is about 60 degrees Celsius, and a battery-powered candle wouldn't get that hot. Dipper uses "You fell harder than the Jin dynasty" as a quip against Genghis Khan, and because my brain wouldn't let me do this otherwise, I had to check if the Jin dynasty actually fell hard. And the short version is that the emperor died, there was a conflict over his succession, which led to a war called the War of the Eight Princes. And after that, there was the uprising of the Five Barbarians, which was another unrest. And these 3 events were basically the things that sent the Jin dynasty over the edge. So I guess the remark was pretty accurate. After Dipper and Sherlock Holmes' fight leads them to the roof of the mystery shack, you can see that Sherlock Holmes is wielding the sword in his right hand, even though we clearly know that he is supposed to be left-handed. Oh, okay, that was just unnecessary property damage. Whoop-de-doo, magic sword switcheroo, and he's holding it in his left hand again. I'm pretty sure he's compensating for something with his enormous magnifying glass. Okay, this dude can't decide what hand to use to wield his sword. He switched it again, he's holding it in his right hand. And now, besides the police, even Wax Sherlock Holmes called Dipper adorable because he sneezes like a kitten. Shakespeare tries to start with "There once was a dude from Kentucky," which, if you didn't know, originally goes "There once was a man from Kentucket," which of course wouldn't have been allowed in a kids show like this in its original form. But the S&P department struck again, and they were also not happy with the modified version that the creator of the show suggested. And close to the end, we get a little meta joke with Mabel stating that most people think that Dipper is the sidekick and not her. After showing the policemen that Dipper indeed did solve the case in the end, they were a bit flabbergasted, and because they were drinking coffee, they started spitting the coffee at each other and started screaming with coffee still in their mouths. I don't know how that works, but in the world of Gravity Falls, everything is possible. At least the head of Larry King still gives good advice on sweaters. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Gravity Falls. If you have any more suggestions for the show, for something I should look for or at, then please leave them in the comments. Otherwise, I would be very happy if you could subscribe to the channel. It's for free, and you can always unsubscribe if you want to. That being said, I hope to see all of you in the next episode of Mysteries of Gravity Falls. Until then, see ya!